Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm just going to try, I'm trying to figure all this out and make sure I don't, because I just already did a whole message that apparently didn't record. So it's been a while since I've even touched the video aspect of my life. And part of that is because what's been going on has been so different than anything else I can ever describe to you. So my neighbors are barbecuing and the kids are out, so it may be kind of like crazy in the background, so I just want to let you know. Today, I am going to do a reading recording for you, the message from June 30th, 2018 through the 6th of July. Is that right? Yeah, the 7th of July. Let's say Saturday to Saturday. So a couple things I want to talk to you about. Number one, we are in a Mars retrograde right now. So when Mars is retrograding, and a lot of people ask me about reversed cards, they ask me about retrogrades, and I think one of the things I want to say is that if you take a card and look at it in two ways, you look at it as a retrograding planet almost. So if we pick a card and it's upside down, that has a retrograde energy to it, which may mean you're revisiting something, you're redoing something, or it may feel like things are slowed down in your life. So that said, I am in my red, white, and blue hair for you all. So the other thing I want to mention is about how you keep your cards. And a lot of people, I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you. I know this has happened to me where my cards just won't read for me. They get pissed off at me. I'm like, why aren't you giving me a message? And a lot of times what it has to do with is the way in which you're storing the cards, where you're storing the cards. They may not be energizing the way they need to. When that happens, if you feel like you've been putting it in a cloth that has a weird vibe or what have you, I take a dish of salt, and preferably sea salt. You can put it on the window ledge. I take the cards, and obviously I put something to protect the cards. And the salt, the energy of the salt around the cards, and sometimes, honestly, I'll put a couple like sprigs of sage around as well. And I leave it out overnight because even though the moon may not be out, the moon is always out. And so the moon rays go into it and re-energize that emotional connection with spirit for you. Now, for me, I found this fabulous box that is a secret card box. And so I keep my cards in my book box. And part of the reason I do that is I think some of you have been reading up on some of my stuff, and I've been talking about how I'm moving really into more of professional training and my own writing. And so that said, let's take a look at what's going on. And as I mentioned, we are in a Mars retrograde at this current time. So let's very briefly, let me give you an idea of a Mars retrograde. A Mars retrograde, energetically for us, some people say, oh, projects get stalled. I say it's a great time to go back, right? Retrograde back, go back and pick up an old project. Pick up something that meant something to you at one time and revisit it. And it's very interesting because everything that's been going on for me has led up to this time where, I went back and I went, who am I really and what do I want to be doing? Because sometimes if you're running a business, it starts running you. And that wasn't who I was. And I had to get more honest with myself. Mars retrograde is a great time for you to get honest with yourself and say, is this really where I want to be? So that said, let's pull a card. Let's see what's going on. And, one of the things I really love about this particular deck is that they're really based on the original fables. And when I self-published the original deck before it became Chakra Wisdom cards, the original deck is this one. It had the name of the fable on it. But of course, when I went to the publisher, when I went to Watkins, it had to change because they wanted a name on there that was universally understandable to everyone. So what I did was I said, of course, that sounds like a great idea. And they also put the color of the chakra around each card. So you'll see, and I have one in here, you'll see, for example, that's what the card looks like in the new version. Now, obviously it's not the same card, but you get the idea that this is a yellow, it's the third chakra. So when we look at the cards and when I look at the original deck, what I like to do is I put two decks together. And here's something that could be really cool for you all to try. Sometimes you want to know if something's coming up from the past to revisit you, like in a Mars retrograde, or is it something that maybe I want to start in the future? What I like to do is I take this deck, which is the original deck, older deck, I mix it with the new deck. I shuffle the cards together. And then what happens is I've got cards that are the old deck, old ideas, old issues, and I've got something from the future or present. So it gives you an interesting crossing of like, oh, this is something that's happened in the past, and this is something that could be happening in the future. So it's a great way of looking at, let's say you have two decks, you love using them. Use one deck, you can even do it this way. You can take one deck, reverse the entire deck, and the other deck right side up. And as you shuffle it, you can decide that the reverse deck may be past issues coming up. Do you see like how we can play with the idea of how we put the deck together? Now that said, I'm going to pull one card for the week and we're going to talk about that. Now you may wonder, why does she have this hidden in a book? I'm going to tell you why. People used to come over to my house all the time. They go, oh, your deck. And they didn't understand. I don't want you touching my deck. Hands off. Because I like my energy with my deck. Now that said, I will often, when I'm doing, groups and I'm in public doing public workshops, I'll take 2 or 3 decks, and those are decks that people can touch. That's a universal feel, and that way I can pull 2 of the same card or 3 of the same card. So a lot of times I'll be reading, when I read for you all, when I'm doing, readings, I'll pull 2 cards the same. And that will show me that not only does it validate my original thinking or the original, if you will, message, it also gives me a stronger hit on what's really going on for you. So let's take a look. This week, when we look at Mars retrograde and we look at the power of that planet, when you have a planet retrograding, it really is a time for you to look at what's coming back to review and look at. Now, Mars is how we're spending our energy, our time, right? It's how we're directing our focus. So are you directing your focus on things that are supporting you, or are you self-torturing yourself? Now, this is the fable of Shadow Gray Storm. All of the cards are based on the fables. So what happened was the name of the fable became the keyword on the card. So when you look at the new cards, which if you have the deck, that's what you'd be looking at. I'm just going to grab it in here. Okay. So of course, okay. So you can see here the name of the card. You see how it's got the gray, which actually is because 7th chakra is neutral. And that's why I did it in gray. Some people go, oh, that's not right. And it's like, okay, But the idea here is that that's the release card. And what happened is that was the name that you will find on your card deck. And the name of the fable, Shadow Gray Storm, and the quote is, I can no longer keep your secrets. And what's powerful about that is those were the quotes. Every fable has a quote, and you're going to see that in the toolkit. This is the only place where the full fable, the original fable, resides. So when you look at Shadow Gray Storm, this is really the dark night of the soul. And what the angel or the spirit is telling us is that I can no longer keep the secrets that are torturing you. It's time for you to face what's going on and move through it. Because, if you really look at the cliche, if you will, of when we step out into the rain and it's this perfect, we have this here a lot because I'm in like humidity right now. It is hot here today. One of the things you'll see is that, of course, the rain gives way to rainbows. And so this is really about, the release card is letting go of all those old resentments and all of the people we kept on the hook so that they don't get credit when we succeed. And there's a bigger conversation around that. So what I'd like you to look at this week is the idea of the Mars retrograde. How are you spending your time? Where are you focusing your energy? And is it really what you want to be doing? And I'm going to give you a little bit of a thought to work with. One of the things that happens here in the toolkit is this was actually created through a group activity, and that's how the whole Fable program was developed. And in here, there is a solo journey, and it's the Thursday Make a Connection. It's connecting with yourself and others. And the solo activity is write down a resentment that you're holding on to. What would it take for you to let it go and move on? If you don't know, yes. The Council of the Great Spirits is convening right now. The Great Spirits know what you need to do and are willing to help you. Are you ready? Write down the minutes of their meeting. What wisdom do they have about your situation? So if you can imagine your spirit guides coming in and all convening around you, looking at that resentment, and then doing some really just writing from the words you're hearing. And don't try to make sense of it. Just write it down. It will come to you. I promise it will. One of the things I love to do is when I have a question like that, I'll fold it and I will put it in my special card box. And I will just put it here, and then I'll put my cards on top of it. And sometimes I'll leave it out under the moon, right? And sometimes I'll just leave this next to me, just under my pillow, or in the pillow just right next to me. And I allow it to come to have the answer in front of me by pulling a card actually the next day. So that's another idea. And I am hoping you all have a very blessed week. And remember that the 4th of July is about independence, and it's about what we all fought for in this wonderful blessing of a society we get to live in. And we're very privileged. I know I am. So much love, everyone. And I will see you in the next video.